So I want you to think back on the most recent time you could think of when you had a big expense. Now, if this is someone who's maybe in school, maybe it's your last tuition payment, maybe you had to move and you had to put a huge down payment for rent, first month's rent and last month's rent, or maybe you had a huge car expense, maybe your transmission blew and you had to shell out thousands of dollars. And just think about how that made you feel. Like knowing that you had to either plan in order to make this payment, or when you found out all of a sudden that you had to make this payment, your stomach just drops and you're worried because you don't know how you're going to do it. You're going to have to move some money around. You might have to work extra hours or pick up a whole nother job just to make this payment. Like, I know from personal experience, and I know almost everyone else I know has gone through this before in their life, where they have a unexpected payment or just a really big payment, and it sucks, man. Like, it borderline causes like anxiety because you're just like, you don't know how you're going to do it. It's a terrible feeling having to make a big payment like that. And I think that, it's the idea of not knowing if something's going to work out. And when I say something, I mean like your situation financially when these kinds of payments come up. And it's just because like you almost have to give up something in order to get something. So, maybe you can't afford to pay another bill that month because you have to make this payment, or maybe you can't afford to eat the way you normally do because you have to make this payment. And that's a scary feeling, man. Like, it's scary not knowing if you can pay rent or pay to fix your car or pay to eat. Like, it's just like, it shouldn't be like that, but it is, man. It's pretty scary when you really sit down and think about it. So I say all that to say that, you know, while everyone knows it's nice to have a lot of money, like if you genuinely put the work in and save some money and have money set aside, it just makes life a whole lot easier. Like knowing you have money set aside in savings or investments, God forbid something like this does come up, especially like unexpected expenses if you're a homeowner and something breaks, or maybe you're renting and then your car breaks, or whatever the case may be. Maybe they bump your rent up a bunch and you end up having to move because you can't afford that rent, but again, you'd have to pay that first and last month's rent at that new place, not to mention all the moving expenses that come along with it. It could be really stressful. So having money set aside, it's not the end all be all and it doesn't fix everything, but it makes life a whole hell of a lot easier. And there's certain levels to this, right? Like I feel like the first level is like a 6 month emergency fund, right? That's what everyone always preaches. Have 6 months worth of expenses saved in a separate account. That way, if something bad happens, you lose your job, you have a major expense that you have to take care of, at least you have that set aside. So that's like the first level of this, having a certain amount of money that makes life easier. Then there's another level where you have much more than 6 months of expenses. Maybe you have like 2 or 3 years worth of expenses set aside. So let's say it costs you $30,000 to live throughout the year. And again, that's like an extremely conservative estimate and example, but I'm talking like bare minimum, just paying your rent, making sure your insurance is paid, eating the bare minimum amount of food while still maintaining a decent diet, but no going out to eat, no going out and partying. Like I'm just talking the bare minimum of what you need to survive. If you had like 2 or 3 years of that money saved, so maybe like 100 grand, then you're at that next level where you're like, all right, I could lose my job and I'd still be fine for like 2 or 3 years. And that's a pretty good feeling, because I will say that throughout college, I really took advantage of living at home with my parents, and I worked a ton and I saved a bunch of money. I paid off all my debt that I had. Most of it was just student loans. I never really had credit card debt. I had a small car loan, paid that off, paid off my student loans, became debt free. And then I really took advantage of living at home with my parents during the first half of my 20s. And I was able to save up a really good amount of money for my age, I would say. I mean, again, it's all based on perspective. A good amount of money to me might be a small amount of money to someone else. But the point is I saved up basically 2 to 3 years worth of expenses. And that allowed me to actually move out of my parents' house and move to a whole different city, whole different state actually, without a job. I actually quit my job that I was working when I was living with my parents and moved to a different state without a job lined up. But because I took advantage of that, that opportunity of living at home with my parents and having no rent, and really no bills, they even took care of my food. I was so blessed. I'm so lucky to have them. Took advantage of that, saved up some money, and got to a point where I had about 2 to 3 years worth of expenses saved up. And that allowed me to kind of take a leap without worrying and without losing sleep at night, knowing that worst case scenario for the next 2 to 3 years, even if I didn't work another day, I'd be all right because I had some money set aside. And then if that worst case scenario did actually come true, I couldn't find work. My parents are great. They'd always let me move back in with them. And again, I'm really lucky for that. But I say all that to say that, saving that money and having that 2 to 3 years worth of expenses saved and having that savings level, it really gave me the mentality to take a leap of faith, go for a risk, but also not worry. And that's like that second level of freedom that money can give you. And then beyond that, I feel like once you get to a point where you have enough in savings and enough invested that you could just live off of that and you quite literally don't need to work if you don't want to, that's like the third and final goal, in my opinion. Obviously, you can get even higher. You can get up into like hundreds of millions and even billions of dollars. And, that's basically considered fuck you money. Like you can just do whatever you want within the law and you don't have to answer to anyone. And obviously, that's like a great goal and it would be an awesome situation to be in. But realistically, I'm just looking to get to a point where I can live off of my investments and not have to worry about working if I don't want to. I probably will continue to work when I get to that point, but it's a threshold that gives you a sense of freedom and a mindset that really no one can take from you. So, money can be a dangerous thing because I feel like some people let it drive their whole life. And don't get me wrong, man, money is like really important. Like it makes the world go round. Again, all that I just said, like it allows you to like do things and take risks and live a life you want to live. But you can't let it control your life because then, money is the root of all evil. We've all heard that saying before. And money makes people do crazy things. We hear stories about people hitting the lottery and then all their family members and old friends come out of the woodworks looking for money. So it can be like having a lot of money could be a bad thing. But I think overall, having a lot of money is a good thing because it does things for you. Like, again, you don't have to work if you don't want to. It can take care of your health issues for the most part, unless, there's something that's just incurable. But it allows you to take care of health issues or also prevent them. Like, if you have money, you can really focus on your health, eat healthy, get good exercise, have trainers. Like, it allows you to do things for yourself that you may not be able to do if you didn't have money. And it also allows you to have more free time to focus on the things you care about. One of them being your health, but also like relationships, passions, traveling, like whatever it is you want to do and spend your time doing. Money allows you to do that. And if you don't have money, you have to spend your time doing other things just to survive. So I think overall, like there's a balance between it. Money shouldn't be everything, but it is really important. And once you get to a certain point in life and you have a certain amount of money, I feel like that's when the real fun starts because we can buy designer bags and cars and nice houses and all that stuff. But I think the true enjoyment and the true wealth in life comes from doing things for others. So if you have a lot of money, you can do that for people. Like you can quite literally change someone's life and it won't even like make a difference to you. You could pay off someone's debt. You could take someone on a trip. You can fund your kids' education. You can do all these incredible things if you have money. And the best part about it is you're doing it for other people. And because you have such an abundance of wealth, it really doesn't even affect you financially. So I think it's important to make a lot of money and focus on making a lot of money. Just don't let it be your only focus, because then you could start to lose touch with the other things that matter in life, including your health and your relationships. That's probably the most important thing. So just don't let it control you. You'll be more miserable than people who have no money. And I know that sounds kind of crazy, but it's true. Like some of the richest people in the world are the most miserable. That's why, you see these celebrities and these famous people who aren't happy and they come out and admit it after a while, even though they have all the money in the world, they have all the cars, they have the houses, they have all these friends. So I think it's important to find a balance. But at the end of the day, man, money, if you think about it in the correct way and you have a good mindset around money and what it can do for you and how it can help you, I think it makes life really easy. You just don't want to get out of hand with it and make it your only focus, because it can end up ruining you. And the bad effects of it could be far worse than the good effects of having it, if that makes sense. So I think it's important to make some money, go out, hustle, especially when you're young, take advantage of your opportunities. If you're living at home, now's the time to sacrifice and work a little harder so that you can enjoy yourself with your family, and hopefully your wife or your husband and your kids one day, and then hopefully grandkids and all that kind of stuff. So I think it's, when you're young, definitely hustle, but don't make it your only focus, because it could end up ruining the things that matter most in your life. So that's really all I wanted to talk about. I just want to kind of talk about my mindset around money, because at one point in my life, all I did was work. And while it did set me up to be in a position that I'm in right now, I have like a decent amount of money saved and invested, and I feel good for my age. I don't feel great, and I feel like there's a lot more work to do, but I feel like I'm in a good spot for my age. I'm in my mid 20s, but I sacrificed a lot to like get to this point. I would work basically 7 days a week throughout my 20s. I was working 2-3 jobs during college, didn't go away to school, missed out on that whole experience. Quite frankly, I don't really regret it at all. I think I made the right decision, especially for me. But other people might feel differently about that. So while I sacrificed a lot, I don't regret my decisions. But I definitely missed out on some things that, I may have experienced if I wasn't working like crazy and focusing only on money. And I also went through periods where I wasn't exercising and working out, and I just felt like unhealthy. I lost like some weight, really didn't have any muscle on me, like became skinny. Not like super skinny where it was like extremely unhealthy or anything. I just like looking at myself in the mirror. I didn't like how skinny I was. So then I got back into the gym and started focusing on health again. But at the end of the day, man, health is probably the most important thing, because without your health, you can't even do anything. So definitely prioritize that over anything. But yeah, man, that's really all I wanted to talk about today. It's just kind of my mindset on money, where I'm at in life, kind of how I've shifted from focusing solely on money. Now I'm still focused on money, getting money, building businesses, doing all that, but I'm focusing on my health as well as my relationships too. And I feel like life has gotten a little better since I started doing that. So find that balance for yourself, make money, but also focus on the things that matter. So I appreciate you guys clocking in with me today. If you're new here, I post all kinds of content. I love talking about like money, personal finances, but I also just talk about life experiences in general and things that people can relate to. So if you like this kind of content, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I post every Tuesday and Thursday at 3 p.m. Eastern time, and then also on Saturdays at 10 a.m. Eastern time. So I appreciate you guys checking in with me, and I will catch you all in the next one. Peace.